Welcome to Season 3 of the Changing Earth podcast with Sarah F. Hathaway, blending survival fiction and fact to bring you entertaining education that will help you dream, survive, and thrive. And now, here's your host, Sarah F. Hathaway.
Hello and welcome to the very first voice and video recording of the Changing Earth podcast. I've been really encouraged to get out there and do some work on YouTube. So this is what I know how to do best, which is talk about my books and my fictional writing and survival topics that I love to talk about. So I decided that I would try to blend the ability to have both video and audio of the Changing Earth podcast just for you, so we can see what happens with it. So welcome to the Changing Earth podcast. This is episode number 94, season 3, episode 13. So if you're just joining me on YouTube for the very first time, you got to go back to the podcast, catch up on the book, catch up on all the great episodes. I might work with putting some of those down into video. We'll see how it goes, what people's reactions are to actually being able to see me record the show. So I just got back from vacation in Texas. We left on a Saturday when a huge snowstorm came into California. Not very often we get snow at our house, and that was one of the times when we did. So luckily, my mother had woken us up, scooted us out the door. We made it over the pass in the Sierra Nevadas just before the storm hit. So we were lucky to get out when we did and make that happen. We had another storm in Salt Lake City. We had some horrible weather on the way out in this huge motorhome. So another blizzard in Salt Lake City, and then 60 plus mile an hour winds all across Wyoming. So it was a lot of fun, trying to keep the truck where it was supposed to go, and you're stressing out, your belly's all tight, but we made it. We had a lot of fun. From Wyoming, we went down to Colorado. I got to meet Dale and Lisa from the Survivalist Preppers in Colorado. It was such an honor. They are wonderful, fantastic people that I wish I had as my neighbors, because we would just be, spending every night together talking about way too much. So they, bestowed upon us a wonderful gift while we were there. My family, I've shot bows for a long time. My son shot a bow. My husband hasn't been able to join us. And so they gave us this beautiful bow that I cannot even tell you how appreciative we are of having that gift. But as I already have one that I love to shoot, I gave it to my husband. Now we can all shoot together. It is so much fun. We're getting the synchronized, arrow shots out there. So it's just great to do. Maybe I'll have to put up some video of that sometime. I don't know. We'll see. So I had this tomahawk that I just loved, and Dale fell in love with it as well. So let Dale have my tomahawk, because, I just couldn't believe they would give me such a gift as that bow. So thank you so much, Dale and Lisa. Love you guys. It was such an honor to have met you. You just don't find good people like that. And to finally meet face to face after all these years of being friends online was just such a treat. So great time there. From there, we continued down on all these toll roads into Texas, and I've got to Texas. My in-laws have property out in the country. They have a pond there. So basically what we do all week while we're there is just fishing, shooting, and shooting the bows, getting to work around the house. That's what you do as country folk. You work all the time. So we were cleaning some brush there and doing that kind of thing. The weather, the humidity started already. I was like, holy smokes. In Michigan, it takes a while for the humidity to build, but I guess in Texas, everything's bigger, and boom, it happened right away. So a lot of little ticks there as well. So that was, kind of the downside. But while we were there, I got to meet with James and George Hart down there. And, me and James have been working on the IAN project a lot together. And so it was good to be able to hash out ideas. And once we got business out of the way, we were just fishing. I think we caught over 30 fish. I got to meet George's son, Xander, and also his daughter, Brittany. Great people. And their friend, Robert. And man, I just can't tell you how much I enjoyed my time with them. So always a treat when I get to see my friends that I don't, I get to see them online, and that's about it. But, I have to be honest and tell you, in our communities, in the conservative communities and the survivalist communities, California is just a big mar, and everybody knows it. And as much as I hate like the government of California and what they constantly force the people to do, I was talking about this with my friend that I think the big difference between liberalism and conservatism, because if you actually talk to each other, we're not too far off. But the liberal ideas are more like you should be forced to have to pay for this cool thing which we want to do for somebody. Well, as free-thinking Americans, it's my opinion that you shouldn't be forced to do anything you don't want to do. And yeah, we need to have firefighters, and yeah, we need to have police officers. But as far as putting all these projects on the shoulders of the citizens for them to pay for all of these, projects that are good ideas and they're solid, but to, constantly be asking the people for more money, and then they go out and they misrepresent the money that they do have. There's all this, scandalous activities that happen within the government, and then they mess up and they're not held accountable. And to turn around and say, oh, well, you should have to pay more money now. Well, what? What is that? So, that's very frustrating. But returning home to my community was such a blessing. And, I've been talking a lot about community lately and how important it is to have that community and how important it is to have that network before anything were to go wrong. And I looked around and I was like, I love so many of these people so much. Moving away from them, choosing to move away from them would be a very, very hard thing for me to do. I've got Skip Buck over at Cool Gym, or I've got Skip Buck over at Body by Buck, and, it's in Cool. It's the Cool Gym, so that's why I call it that. But, he is a fantastic man. If you ever got to meet him, he's nothing but heart and soul. And also my martial arts instructors, Dan and Debbie Lovis down at Auburn Martial Arts School. There are some fantastic, God-fearing, just awesome people. And, that's going to be a big challenge for me. So we'll cross those bridges eventually. But, it really did reinforce the meaning of community and how important that is and how special that is. So anyway, enough about me. Let's go ahead and get into the Walls of Freedom story. Last week on the Walls of Freedom, my characters are making their way through the Sierra Nevada mountains. And, this is my familiar stomping ground. I go up skiing all the time in the winter, so I know this area really well. And they finally get down and they finally get to Reno where they get help for Daniel. So now that they're in this, medical facility run by Dolores, and it's basically this underground facility, I chose to do underground just because there's so much government activity on top that, the only way to hide it would be to go underground with something like that. So I thought it was a cool little twist. Anyhow, so they finally get there and they have help for Daniel, but the stress that this puts on a family is unimaginable. And I have 2 children of my own, and, it breaks my heart just to see them with the flu or a cold, and I've been so blessed with healthy children. I can't thank the Lord enough for my children and their health. And I can't imagine the pain of a parent going through this. And so one of the things that scares me is sometimes when I write in my books, some things from the books will manifest themselves into reality. And we just kind of give each other that, whoa, did that really happen? Look. So, I really had a hard time writing this section because God forbid it would ever manifest in reality, So it was really tough for me. And I can't imagine the pain of the family members having to deal with this ill loved one. So here to talk to us today, ironically enough, about coping with an ill loved one is Dale and Lisa Goodwin from the Survivalist Preppers. They helped me out with this episode, and it's just ironic that it gets to play the week after I just got home from vacation and actually visiting with them and whatnot. So what an honor. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into chapter 13 of The Walls of Freedom. The Walls of Freedom by Sarah F. Hathaway. Chapter 13. Erica stared at Star in disbelief. Can you believe this? Erica wondered. Oh, I believe it, Mom, Star answered as she headed for the comfort of the suede sofa. This is certainly not the world my mom and dad told me about when I was little. Erica was shocked. Star hadn't spoken about her parents in a long time.
They had both been killed in the Great Quake and the aftermath that ensued. The world's a much different place than it was back then. Priorities have changed, Erica replied, joining her on the sofa. It seems like the focus should have turned to healing the people and the planet, Star mused. Star, I have to believe that nobody in a position of power is doing anything with the thought of hurting other people. They do what they do, thinking it is for the greater good of all people. They never consider all the lives that are affected by their decisions. They were dependent on beliefs in a system that failed. They thought they could conquer the planet through industrialization, never considering that our technology didn't have to dominate the planet. It could have worked with it. Now they want to return to the familiar ways they once knew, to the beliefs in economy and progress that felt normal to them. To achieve that system, some people have to go. Some people will need to be used, but their lifestyle will be maintained, and the world will be rebuilt. Into what? Star wondered. I don't know, Star. I just don't know. Erica was lost in thought. Where is our species going? She wondered. Only time would tell. Hello, ladies, Dolores boomed as she re-entered the room. Now that we have the little chip problem solved, we have to solve a much bigger one. What's that? Erica gazed up at this powerhouse of a lady, dressed to the nines in front of her. Your rags, of course. I can't have you strolling around and sitting on my suede sofa in that. You'll stick out like sore thumbs around here. Now y'all follow me, she commanded jovially. Star and Erica exchanged amused looks as they rose to follow Dolores. Come on in here, ladies, she said as she led them into one of the bedrooms. Now, you put this on. She handed Erica a sexy black dress. And you put this on. She handed Star a red and black dress. I'm sure you'll find the sizes to be a match. This ain't my first rodeo, ladies. The shower is over there, she continued, indicating a door. And you'll find everything you need to do up your hair and face. I would expect to see you use it. I know you ladies have been held up in that awful refugee camp for a number of years, but around here, I expect to see all my ladies looking their finest. She headed out the door as abruptly as she had entered. That lady is a whirlwind, Erica told Star, exhausted from the encounter. For real, Mom, she expects me to wear this? Star exclaimed, holding up the slim dress to her body. And me to wear this? Erica questioned with the same shocked look. Oh well, when in Rome, right? What? Star wondered. When in Rome, do as the Romans do? It's an old saying, Erica explained. I guess so. Real old, Star teased. Whatever, I'm not that old, Erica defended. If you say so, Star pressed. Come on, let's take that shower, Erica said, changing the subject. Think Daniel will be okay, Mom? Star worried. After hearing all that Sam had to say, I'm scared. Me too, but I think Tony brought us to the right place. All we can do is wait now, Erica reassured her daughter, hoping it was true. I think you're right, Mom. I love you, Star said, hugging her. I love you too, Erica replied, hugging her daughter. Now let's go take that shower. You stink, Erica teased as she entered the bathroom. Her eyes were met with her own reflection in a gigantic mirror, with lights brilliantly illuminating the room. The dirt streaked her face, and tired eyes stared back at her. After seeing her filthy reflection, Erica felt bad about sitting down on the elaborately cushioned bench that was upholstered in a soft, fine fabric to take her grubby boots off. Wow, this is beautiful, Star gasped as she entered the room behind Erica. I know, Erica admitted. It's been a long time since I saw real marble, she commented, pointing out the material composing the countertops and the space around a large bathtub. Star sat down next to her and began unlacing her boots as well. Erica was restless. Standing up quickly, she went and started the water running in the sophisticated shower. There were 2 heads on either side, and she got them both running. Her hands began shaking as she tried to stifle all the emotions she had swirling around in her head. She jumped when she felt Star's warmth holding her from behind. Star hugged her tightly, and Erica relaxed into the arms of her grown child. It's okay, Mom. He's going to be okay, Star reassured her. I can't do this, Star. I can't relax and shower when I know he's lying there on the brink of death, Erica sobbed, losing her composure at an uncontrollable rate. There's nothing we can do now. Just relax, Star assured her, rubbing her shoulders. We will make it through this. The water was steaming and the ladies began to undress. Erica's frantic trembling continued. She tried to take deep breaths and calm down, but her body rattled on. We left them all behind, Star. We left our dearest friends for our freedom, and now Daniel may die for it. Erica's mind swirled. Yeah, we did, Mom. Not many people get to choose their life anymore, and we made a choice. Who knows what would have happened if we stayed? But you always told me we can't focus on the what-ifs, only the what is. So you take a look in the mirror and feel sorry for yourself. Take that moment to let yourself worry and second guess, and then stop it. Yes, we were fed, and yes, we were safe. But were we ever fulfilled? Did you want to spend your life in that place forever? I hated every moment of it. So take your moment and then get over it. We have to be strong. We have to carry on. For Daniel, Star commanded. You're right, Star. I'm sorry, Erica cried. Don't be. We're all scared. But we have each other. We don't know where we're going, but we're free to decide that for ourselves, Star said, trying to convince her shaken mother. Erica let Star's words sink in. How did you ever turn out so grounded in this world? Erica wondered out loud. I just got lucky. I had 2 sets of awesome parents, Star teased, lightening the mood. They proceeded to the shower. Erica composed herself and let the water rinse the negative feelings from her mind. Feeling rejuvenated, she slipped into the small black dress Dolores had left for her. The material stretched tightly across her body, and she remembered how much feminine clothing restricted her movements. Sitting down at one of the chairs at the vanity, she stared at the items laid out there. It had been many years since she had put on makeup. Erica was in awe of her daughter's beauty as Star joined her at the vanity. Do you know what to do with this stuff? Star wondered naively. It sure has been a while, but I think so, Erica answered. Erica loved this special time alone with Star. She explained the uses of the various items to the best of her ability. They were feeling very fancy as they exited into the bedroom. Their timing was perfect, and Dolores almost ran into them as she entered the bedroom. Oh, you ladies look beautiful, Dolores boomed. How's my son? Erica asked directly, unconcerned with her appearance. He made it through the surgery. They successfully removed the tracker. He's still out, and his recovery may be slow, but he made it. First one ever! My med center is the best around, Dolores declared cheerfully. When can I see him? Erica wondered, elated by this news. You can see him now. But where are the clothes you took off? We will wash them for you, Dolores explained. Here they are, Star chimed in with a smile that stretched ear to ear after hearing the news about Daniel. Alexis, please grab their things and take them to the laundry, Dolores commanded to a young girl who was at her heels. The reserve girl slipped around Dolores and took the clothes from Star, then disappeared as quietly as she had appeared. This way, ladies, Dolores instructed, as she entered back into the main room with Erica and Star in tow. It was brighter in this area of the home. Dolores's look changed when she noticed Erica's bare arms, adorned with scars from her past. Her eyes looked from Erica's shoulders to her wrists, where multiple close calls with abusive men had left thick scars from ropes tearing into her skin. Looks like life has dealt you some challenges. Would you like a shawl? Dolores questioned, concerned about Erica's self-conscious feelings. Erica thought about it for a moment. She had never totally gotten over the fact that her body bore these scars from her escape from Sacramento. But this is who she was now. Vince still loves me. Who else do I need to impress? She wondered. No, I'm all right, Erica answered. Star was impressed by her answer. Knowing Erica's self-conscious feelings about her scars, she loved the fact that her mom could just be herself and not worry about the thoughts of others. Besides, Star never thought they were as bad as Erica always made them out to be.
So this is definitely a wardrobe change for Erica and Star. They're not used to being all gussied up in this type of outfit. So definitely a wardrobe change for them. But their thoughts still hover back to Daniel and how he's doing. So here to talk to us today about coping with ill loved ones is Dale and Lisa Goodwin. They are the producers of the Survivalist Prepper podcast. In early 2013, Lisa and Dale decided to create survivalistprepper.net and become a bigger part of the preparedness community. They are not the overboard, tinfoil hat-wearing conspiracy theorists. They're just like you, everyday Americans that enjoy the freedoms that this country has to offer. Although tinfoil hat time is my favorite time of their podcast. They always come up with some great stuff and talk about some really relevant material that's out there, that's looking us in the face that a lot of us don't want to think about. So Lisa is more of the prepper and Dale's more of the survivalist or the outdoor type. And they write articles ranging from first aid to food storage to primitive and wilderness skills, basically anything that involves preparedness and survival. And they also have the Prepper Academy over there where you can go and start getting instructed on preparedness and learning a lot of the intricacies of how to get yourself and your family ready for whatever may come. So let's go ahead and welcome Dale and Lisa to the show. Today, I am super excited to have Dale and Lisa Goodwin on the show. It's always so much fun to have my day to talk with Dale and Lisa. So thank you guys so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah. Hey, Sarah, how are you?
I'm doing awesome.
I'm just super excited. Super excited to be with Sarah.
Always love talking with Lisa. Like, all right, Dale, hold on.
I'm all right taking the back seat a little bit. That's okay. I'm in when I get my window.
That's right. Lisa takes the back seat on some of those interviews. So
Yeah.
So in our chapter today, it was a rough chapter. They made it to Reno. You know, Daniel is still really, really sick. This was a really challenging part for me to write because I hate putting thoughts out into the universe. And so much of my book mirrors my family that it's really hard for me to write and really emotional for me to read on the air. So definitely a difficult conversation. And that's why I thought that coping with ill loved ones would be a great topic to discuss because it's going to happen. For example, I just pulled my hamstring last night. And if we were in an SHTF situation, I'd be down. So now I'm not a productive member anymore. And so we're going to have this happen. And there's a lot of emotions that come with this, both for the person who's hurt and the person who is not hurt. So what are some of these emotional trappings that we are going to go through when we have these sick loved ones that we're trying to care for?
I think you just said it perfectly. It's the emotional trappings, because when someone gets sick that you care about, you feel like there's nothing you can do. And you feel that you're at a loss. You feel it's just, unfortunately, a lot of times we put the focus back on ourselves. And it's like, what am I feeling? What am I feeling? When we need to turn it around and figure out what that person is feeling, the sick loved one, especially like in this instance, when it's Daniel, it's like, okay, what is he feeling? And I think it's important to try to put yourself in the patient or, your loved one's shoes. What are they feeling? So if you put yourself in their position, maybe you can figure out and come up with a plan instead of, thinking about yourself. Come up with a plan that's going to make it better, that you can actually help your loved one when they're ill.
Yeah, and I think some people like you is who I kind of think about with this. When somebody is ill or not feeling well or whatever, sometimes it's important to get them to the point where they are. Even you, Sarah, with like your hamstring or whatever, getting them to stop for a little bit might be tough. So trying to, I guess, figure out. Are you
implying that it's hard to get me to stop?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, maybe.
I guess figuring out a plan that your group, your family, whatever it might be, to get a situation figured out to where they would feel more at ease, I guess, with not helping out, because some people just want to help out and they'll do whatever they have to, and you'll have to fight them to get them to stop. But if you've got a plan saying, hey, we don't need you.
Even like little tasks that even if somebody had to sit down and rest, you could have them keep their hands busy and stuff by doing things that weren't so labor intensive. So
right, and then
busy work.
Yeah, and they're going to feel like they are, helping.
Right. Yeah, peel potatoes or whatever,
Yeah. So I think, yeah, it's a good idea to figure out how you're gonna tackle the problem without that person, because it very easily could happen, something like that, where you've got to figure out, you've got your game plan set for your whole family. Well, when you're down a team member, you still have to do what you have to do.
Right. So learning cross skills is going to be really important as well.
Mhm.
Right. But I think it's also, that's something that we need to talk about with our family members or our group. What do we do in this situation so that everybody basically can come to an agreement? Hey, when you're down, you're down. And we understand that. So, because you don't want it. I know if it were me, I'd be like, oh crap, I'm not valuable anymore because I'm out of commission.
Mm-hmm.
But, setting an example and setting the standard, saying, okay, you may be out of commission, but, like you said, give them something else to do. So have a backup plan of when someone is out of commission, what are the chores, what are the things that they could do so that they are still being a valuable part of the team, and they still feel like they're a valuable part of the team, which will in turn help their emotional state. But then you're setting up your plan for, you're having your A plan, your B plan, your C plan, and you've always got to have your backup plan to that. So I think that's something critical to actually think about now before something happens.
Well, and there's.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, the smaller your group, the bigger that problem's going to be. If you have a little bit larger group, going down one person might not be as big a deal as if you only have 4 people. Going down one person is going to be a serious problem.
Right.
Yeah. And there's the other added part of that too, is not just that you might be down a person, but what caused that. So you might have your set of chores or tasks, and that might be added to because you've got to help this person, depending on what sickness they have. So that could cause an extra burden as well. And I think people have to just kind of be ready for that. I think that's the main thing, is just be ready for anything to happen.
Yeah, so that's going to overburden somebody else too, because now they have to become a caretaker plus whatever chores they have to get done during the day.
Yeah.
Right.
Or you might have to deal with somebody that's like, man, you're using all your time with him, and you're neglecting this and that. So it could cause a number of different situations.
Well, and if you look at things if you look at it from a perspective of like today, and I see this on a daily basis. Somebody comes into our office or whatever, let's say they have a diabetic foot wound and it's on their right foot. Well, 9 times out of 10, we'll put them in a cast. So if it's on their right foot, they can't drive. They can't do things at home that they have to do, but yet they have to come to our office once a week, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week, for a dressing change or a cast change. Well, if it's on their right foot, that's putting someone else out because that person can't drive. Well, they shouldn't drive. I have seen people drive with a cast. Not recommended.
Talk about a lead foot.
Yeah, literally. But so then I look and I guess I kind of look at this in the perspective of what would I do if this was happening to me or to my family? Because it's like, all right, let's say it happens to me. I go to my job every day. Well, if I can't because I can't work because I have this cast on my leg, well, Dale has to take me to work. So if he's working outside of home that day, he's got to take off work and he's got to take me there. Mm-hmm. So, it's like, I can see how this affects people. And we're not talking short term. We see some of these patients for 6 months, 9 months, where they have this wound or whatever it is on their foot. And then unfortunately, typically they'll end up getting an infection and then we end up cutting off their leg. But
goodness.
Yeah, it's you just have to be prepared and you have to plan for that. What are you going to do if that happens? Hopefully it never happens. But some of the things that you can do now, and keep yourself healthy. Do what you can. If you're a pre-diabetic, you need to get active. You need to do things so that that pre-diabetes doesn't develop into full-blown diabetes where you're dependent on insulin. If you have high blood pressure, you need to get more active. You need to do things with the assistance of your doctor so that you stay healthy, so that those chronic conditions, don't end up, hurting your group or your family in the long run. And there are things that you can do now, especially if you get like a pre-diagnosis. That should be a wake-up call that, hey, I have time to change this before I get past the point of no return.
Yeah, that kind of goes to keep them in the penalty box and make them do what they're supposed to do. Yeah. As opposed to saying, I'm fine.
Yeah. Oh, grr, rub some dirt on it, Dale.
Yeah, I know. Oh,
And then my
all
thought
this-
is
he's
too.
done.
My thought was too. Have your personal preps prepared. Because if
Yes.
you have, your personal prep set up, if you have to go this 9-month period where maybe you're missing work and stuff because you're taking care of your loved one, at least you have a fallback plan as well.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not always about, nuclear bombs and all that stuff. It's
Right.
It could be anything like that. Any member of the family that loses, you lose some income that you depend on in the family. You can't just evict your family member or whatever. You just gotta. I guess you could. Some people could.
Yeah.
Well, and most of us have parents that are getting older and stuff like that, and we eventually
Exactly.
could end up in a caretaker position very easily.
Yep.
So it's something to think about, not just for an SHTF situation. Of course, if it happens there, it's going to be a much bigger challenge.
Absolutely. Yeah. So then we would kind of look back at this and think, well, this is nothing compared to, what it could be.
Right?
Yeah, and you also have to prepare yourself for stuff like that psychologically too, because if you're coasting through life and you've got this is the way everything is, and then all of a sudden something like that does happen, it's a big adjustment, and you would have to. I mean, right now we're just talking about these days, like a mother or somebody like that, thinking about how you would have to change your life structure to be a caretaker for them in a situation like that. Everything gets turned upside down with the flip of a switch. And if people are looking at you to be the leader and you completely lost it, it's not only going to be tough for you, but the whole situation is just going to turn into chaos.
Yeah, that sounds like Greg in my first book, when his dad is killed and he just freaks out. And, and he's the one who's been leading these people. And now they're like, oh, we're all done now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
Because it's like your leaders just lost it. So holy crap, if the leaders lost it, well, then now I know there's no hope.
Right. So
Yeah,
what are a couple of things you can do to keep your spirits up in this situation? As the caretaker, you're going to be overburdened. You're going to be feeling these stresses. What have you guys kind of brainstorm on things you could do to keep your spirits up?
Well, I think the main thing is everything that we're doing now is we're learning about all this stuff. Or at least we're trying. Anything that we can think of that would help us in that situation. That way, when you do get into some sort of stressful situation, you've got something to pull from in your brain filing cabinet or however you want to say it.
Yeah.
You've got the answers or at least some, and you're not totally in the dark going, oh crap, what do I do? So I think just having some of these skills and stuff will give you, I guess, more of it, not relaxed. That's probably a bad word for
No,
it.
but I was thinking you're not blindsided. You're not like, oh my gosh, I never thought that would happen, and now here we are, and we're screwed.
Right.
Mhm.
I think it's a good idea to play out those worst case scenarios in your head and figure out, let's say, put yourself in that situation and, okay, how am I going to deal with this? And I mean, now if we're talking like SHTF, there's no electricity, whatever. I think that's why it's really important now to, number one, start learning those skills and, doing the research on the information. It's easy now. We have Google. If you don't know something and you've got somebody with a weird rash on their leg or something, you can look it up in Google and you can kind of, not necessarily 100% diagnose, but you can have a better idea maybe of what you're dealing with. But make a medical library, learn about essential oils, learn about alternatives to medication if you don't have medication.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of medications that we have nowadays are derived from plants. So learn the different plants and do herbal remedies, learn all about that. So if you're learning about that stuff now, when you're thrust in that situation, I think it's going to give you a little bit more confidence, but it also is going to give you busy work. So then you can keep yourself preoccupied. You can, sit there and run it through your head. Well, if it's this, so these are my resources. This is where I can go for information.
It gives you back the control, actually,
Yes,
right? Because you feel so out of control. So if you have the library and you have some answers, it gives you some kind of a game plan and some kind of control over the situation.
Well, and then you're taking those emotions and you're focusing them in a more positive way instead of just going, oh my God, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And along with that too, not only you, but it also helps everybody else around you because they see that you're getting it done, that you're figuring stuff out. So if they know, it gives them confidence knowing that you might have the answers, or you probably have the answer. These days, our kids is what I think of it. Kids and stuff will kind of laugh or joke about it and give you a hard time. But when it all really comes down to it, they know where they're going to be looking.
Right.
They're like, all right, now what do I do? You've got all the answers. So it not only makes you more confident about the situation, it also makes everybody else around you, because then you can be that leader. You can say, okay, we need to get this done. We need to do that. And everybody else is going to be, once they have that leader that they've been looking for, they're just going to start doing it and going to feel more confident. Now, whether it works or not, it's a totally different story. But
so my thoughts again go to the cross training, because what if it's your person who knows all the medical stuff that is now down, injured, and you can't talk to them, or you can't interface with them. So you're going to have that person who is cross trained big time to be able to step in. You can't just have the one medical person.
That's why Dale knows where all my books are.
Yeah, Dale. Dale.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? As long as she can talk, I can figure stuff out. But
Right.
What's the saying? Those who can't teach. So if you're incapacitated, you can at least teach me how to do stuff. But if you are, completely down and out, I'd be looking for some books.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just go upstairs. Well, now downstairs into our little prepper library of all of my herbal remedies and everything else that's down there.
And then you'll wake up and look in the mirror and be like, "What did you do?"
No, Dale, it would be like on what's the movie Airplane, where get a hold of yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody lining up to shake Lisa. You have to save everyone. So I know personally when I am hurt, which happens, not often, but it happens, let's face it, because I play really hard. I get so aggravated that I am not taking care of myself and taking care of my family and, doing what I know. I'm not in control anymore. And that I don't like that. So,
But, something with that, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off,
No, go
but
ahead.
something with that is if we don't take care of ourselves and we are that leader, everybody else is host. So it's tough because some of us are just that way. We want to get everything done. We need to do this. We need to do that. But if we're doing ourselves harm, we're not helping anybody else by doing that. And that's a tough challenge to overcome for most.
You sound just like my husband last night. He's like, why do you have a save on your computer? That's so that if something happened, it would be backed up, right? So why not save yourself right now and let me back you up? I'm like,
Yeah, I know
And it's
exactly
hard.
how that is.
It's very hard. And I think that's one thing that probably Sarah and I both can do
Yep.
is learning how to, number one, accept help, and number two, being okay with that help, but also, like you said, cross training and having like our significant others or other people in our group being okay with, yes, they aren't going to do it the same way that I do it, but it's still going to get done and it will still be okay. And we have to just swallow for a moment, take a deep breath.
deep breath. Yep.
And realize, no, we can't do everything, even though we think we can, or deep down we know we can, but that's
really
that's
want
not
to.
realistic. We really want to.
Take that super long list you have and start dividing it up between the people that actually want to help you.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say.
Yeah.
But no, that's just me. I have to sit in the background. I've learned my lesson.
Yeah, a lot of times with athletes, the sports injuries, they just get really frustrating because you had goals, you had plans, you had stuff that you're aiming towards, and so that's a hard mental trip. And I think in a SHTF situation, it would kind of be the same way because you had ideas. I was going to go out hunting over here. I was going to go collect herbs over there. I was going to go do this, go do that. And now everything is just on pause. And then, you get frustrated because you're not fulfilling the role that you could be. And
yeah, it's a great analogy because like in football, they get concussions.
Right.
And can feel like they can go out and do stuff. But the repercussions, if something were to happen, can be catastrophic. But they don't think about that because I've got to get a contract, I've got to do this, I've got to do that.
Yep.
And I've got to get my stats and all that. But, it could be not just career ending. It can affect them 20, 30, 40 years down the line. So
And think about like your big tough soldier type guys who are, oh, well, I provide security for this whole place. I do this and I do that. And now he's got an injury to the leg. And, you don't want that to get infected. You don't want him out there in those areas. That'll probably be a very difficult individual to deal with at that time. So everybody's got to be on page beforehand.
They know just go, go, go.
Right.
And that would be a tough situation.
Well, and I think that then it's really important, again, pre-planning, and everyone, not just, certain people, but everyone needs, if let's say you have a healthcare provider, or you have a doctor in your group or something, and something like that does happen, or even right now, and the doctor tells you, you need to be down for 2 weeks. And yes, it sucks, but you have to do it if you want to get better. And I think it's the same thing going back to what we were just talking about. Well, getting help. Well, that's your help, and your professional help is telling you you need to be down for 2 weeks. So unfortunately, you need to listen to them, because if you don't, the alternative is you're going to either have, if you're a sports player, a career-ending injury, or it might even be something as simple as arthritis. And if you love biking or you love doing whatever and you've got arthritis, well, you can still do it, but within moderation. That doesn't mean you go out and run a marathon every weekend. So you can still do it, but you have to basically, you treasure what you have, and you do it a little bit so that you can prolong it. But with an injury, if they tell you you need to be down, then you need to be down, and you need to figure out a plan of things that you can do to keep yourself busy, keep yourself preoccupied, and keep your mind from going crazy and keep from getting depressed. But 2 weeks is a lot better than 2 months or 2 years.
Yeah.
And I think people need to remember that and think about that.
Yeah, I think that self-awareness is one of the crucial parts, is knowing, and again, this is one of those easier said than done things, but knowing that people need you, and knowing when you're kind of flipping out a little bit too much, all of that stuff. So I think being aware and understanding how to deal with that when you do get in that situation is crucial also, but easier said than done.
Mm-hmm. We're all gonna get injured. We all have, something is gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
So you do have to recover from that, and you've got to have your backup plan for what you're going to do while you're recovering. But
like Sarah was saying, with the men and women that are in the military, the reason they're heroes is because they put everybody else first before them.
Sure.
Right. So talking somebody like that out of, one full bore, that's going to be a challenge. But
they're like 350-pound guy who could just crush you in an instant. Like, okay, you need to sit down and relax. And they're like, no. It's like, how are you gonna, how are you gonna deal with this emotional status of the victim?
That's pretty easy. You tell them worst case scenario, and I do this to people.
Okay.
So they come in and they're not listening to me and their little diabetic foot wound, and I'm like, you don't have to listen. You can keep doing what you're doing, but I'm going to tell you, this is what's going to happen. You're going to end up with a below the knee amputation. And within 3 years, your other leg is going to be amputated below the knee. Within 5 years of that, you're going to be dead. And you tell someone that, and you can hear you put the fear of God into them, but it's the truth. So I can say when I tell people that, they actually listen to me.
Right.
Well, and maybe also is let them know how valuable they are, and that you can't do it without them.
Right.
It's going to be so with them putting, soldiers, I keep going back to that, but soldiers will put their lives on the line for the sake of everybody else. But
so if you're not here,
know, hey, I can't. We
can't do this without you. And if you don't heal, then we're all going to be dead.
Mm-hmm.
I like looking at worst case scenario, because that seems to.
You got the nurse mentality. You're gonna die.
You're gonna die.
No, I'm like, I'm not ever getting hurt around Lisa. She'll be like, Sarah, you need to stop right now. And I'll be like, no.
And I'm like, okay, Sarah, so if you're not going to stop, these are the repercussions, and it happened.
I'll be like, I'm
trying to be diplomatic about it. Say, hey, man, we need you. And you're like, you're going to die. I'll have to go to the tape.
And then we're all going to die.
Yep. We're all going to die because you chose not to do what we told you needed to do.
So I'm going to need to tell him, you better suck it up, because if not, Lisa's coming over here.
That's right. All right. So that, a difficult situation. Even nowadays, we get got, like I say, a lot of us have ailing, our parents are all getting older, as much as it sucks and everything. And we're going to be looking at just, elderly care as much as we are people getting injured and stuff. So that's why I really thought this was a relevant conversation, because a lot of people are dealing with taking care of ill loved ones. I had a year where my stomach was completely messed up. They couldn't figure it out. It was finally my gallbladder. But to be sick for that whole year was the worst year of my entire life. And so I feel for people who have long-term sickness, and also the people who, caretake for these people. It's a very difficult situation to handle.
Yeah, and it's the circle of life thing. It's going to happen to everybody. Eventually it's going to be our kids dealing with that type of situation.
Right.
That's just how life goes. You start out in diapers, you end up in diapers, and somebody's got to take care of you.
And as much as we don't want to admit that, it's something we do have to actually rationalize, so that if you are in a difficult situation when it happens, you have a game plan. And you're more prepared for it.
Yep. That's, I think, the main thing is have a game plan as much as you possibly can. Try to prepare yourself as much as possible for situations like that, mentally as well as even supplies, but I think mentally more.
Right. And I think it's easier to think that way, because it's really hard to consider, like, oh my gosh, what if it was my child? That's
right.
just right. I mean,
right.
I don't even want to go there. Like, so writing my books and stuff was definitely challenging. So
right. And I think it's, especially when you are considering it's children, it's, hard on the parents, because, that's your baby.
Right.
But I think it's important. Now, that's the one time where I would turn it around and say that it's important for you. I think it's important to hide your emotion. And if you're scared, I think it's important to hide it from the child that's sick or injured, because they don't need to be worried about that. They don't need to be thinking, oh my gosh, mommy's scared. What's wrong? Am I going to die? I think for a child, you would hide that emotion, and I would not be so brutally honest with a child as where I would with an adult.
Right.
Well, in some unexpected situations like that, whether it's, a family loved one or an SHTF situation, even we need to give ourselves a little bit more credit, because people tend to rise to the occasion. So when something calls for, planning and all that, everybody usually can come together and figure something out. We throw everything out and start thinking about that stuff. And I say usually because there are some people out there that just don't give a crap. When before my mom passed, we were talking about what we were going to do for her, and everybody kind of came together. We started thinking about stuff, and it wasn't personal issues and this and that. Wasn't all what about me. So I think in situations like that, whether it be an SHTF event or now, hopefully most people will kind of come together and figure out a plan that works. That's generally how people are. You always have the turds out there, but generally
they're going lone wolf style anyway, so
yeah.
Hopefully they'll be picked off pretty quick. So Well, Dale and Lisa, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Very much appreciate your time and discussing this difficult topic with me. It's we made kind of light of it, but it's really serious, and I wanted people to take a minute and just think about it.
Yep, absolutely, Sarah. Thank you.
We love coming on here, Sarah. Keep writing books so we can keep talking.
I will. Thank you so much, Dale and Lisa, for coming on the show, and also for your hospitality while we were in Colorado. It was just such a treat to meet you, and I swear I wish we were like neighbors. We could just hang out more often. Maybe I'll get you to come visit Tahoe or something. Come over the pass and come visit me out here in Cali. It's not so bad as everybody makes it out to be. So anyway, I thought about what I could do, what I could share with you today for my survival tip. And there's one aspect that I don't know if I've shared this before on the show. I have like a running list, but I did some way long time ago, some survival tips a long time ago. And I can't remember if I shared this one or not, but I'm going to go ahead and share it again just because I like this article. I like talking about this topic. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. So sleeping outdoors, nightmare or peaceful dreams? For years, my major problem with camping has always been sleeping. I'm always cold and uncomfortable. My body awakens multiple times during the night, frantically shaking or shocked from being locked in a mummy bag. I finally decided enough is enough. So I wanted to sleep outside comfortably, and I had to figure out how to do that. So I did some research on different options. My budget is always very, very tight, and it always seems like you're up against cost versus comfort, and then, of course, weight. So I needed something that would fit just right, and whatever I got, I wanted to get my husband the same thing so that he was comfortable as well. So that just doubles the price of whatever you're buying. And then, my kids are always like, oh, I want one too. So I didn't buy the kids one, by the way. I was like, I slept on the ground for that long. You can sleep on the ground for a little while longer or save your own money. So I asked a survivalist friend of mine what his advice for sleeping outside was. And he said, when worse comes to worse, you need to be at least 4 inches off the ground to insulate your body from the cold. That certainly helped to explain why I was so cold at night all weekend, because we were just laying on like blankets stacked up on the ground. He went on to explain his system, which was a series of different bags, mats, and a hammock for when the weather was good. So, he had compiled this over time. It was all these different systems that he liked to use. I have to say I was still a little bewildered. It didn't look like it was really going to work for me. I didn't know about carrying all that stuff around. So at least I understood now that a big step to getting to sleeping outside comfortably was a good sleeping pad. Now, I don't know about you. You might be a big fan of hammocks, and we're going to get into that a little bit later, but it just wasn't tickling my fancy. So the first item that I found when doing my research, let's see, I went to backcountry.com, and they had a really good selection and articles on every different system that you could think of. So it was a really good starting point. First thing that backcountry.com talked about was a cot. So when I envision cots, I think of nap time in kindergarten, but that's just me. Really, though, that cots have come a long way and can be really, really comfortable. They have all the ones, the one that I'll show you here is all kinds of storage and, lots of good things about it. And it looks really comfortable. They're easy to set up. They get you off the ground. The problem is for me that I only wanted to spend money once on whatever I was getting. So if I was going backpacking, there's no way I'm going to haul a cot along with me. Whereas if I'm going camping and we have the vehicle and everything, then the cot might not be a bad idea. But I only wanted to spend money once. So I wanted to make whatever I got really work for me. So the second thing they talk about was an air bed. Personally, I can't stand air mattresses. The really good ones cost a lot of money. From what I've seen, I've only slept on one that actually didn't leak during the night. And it's probably because it was close to brand new. They're like a bed that, the size of them so you can sleep well together with your partner, but you have to blow that thing up with all that air. So, unless you're going to bring the pump with you, that's kind of sucks. I know that some will self-inflate, but again, how much are you looking at to buy that? So I always find myself sleeping on top of my husband in the morning because of these darn slow leaks. And it's just with the past history I've had with them, I just didn't even want to think about it. So the next thing listed in backcountry.com was sleeping pads. My interest was perked here because this is what I'd been looking into for a while. They're packable, durable. They provide a moderate amount of cushioning. And unfortunately, they too can puncture and get slow leaks, but the one that I purchased has been doing great. And I'll talk about that in a minute. The other option to the air pad was the foam pad. So I also wanted to look at the foam pads. They're often less expensive than air pads. They provide good insulation. They're lightweight enough to backpack, and they don't ever puncture. So on the flip side is that they're bulkier than air pads, and the cushioning can be more minimal. And the air pad that I have has like a Mylar insulator in there, and so it keeps you really nice and toasty. The final thing they talked about was a hammock. So don't get me wrong, I like hammocks to lie out in the shade, but as far as sleeping in one, it's not really my ideal sleeping method. So it's true they keep you off the ground. They're cool when it's hot. They're easy to pack, but there's really no insulation from the cold. So your sleeping bag's the only thing that's really going to provide you insulation from the cold. And for me, it's just a weird position to sleep in, and it's really weird when you try it with two people. So I decided that the hammock was off the list. No, thank you. To make my decision, I needed more options. So I started to look at reviews of different products. The review I found at backpacker.com really solidified my decision to buy an air pad rather than a foam pad. This article discussed the ThermaRest Neo Air sleeping pad, as I pictured in the pictures that I'll show you on the YouTube channel, in detail. And it gives you testament from other contributors as well. I chose it because its users raved about how its micro-thin layer of aluminum reflects your heat and keeps you almost too warm. So that's, for me, that's ideal. I wanted warmth. Plus, its horizontal network of internal baffles makes it more like a mattress and less bouncy when you get on it. It's true that my husband and I will both have to have our own mattress, but at least we'll be sleeping like babies, I hope. I put in my blog. So the price range was about $120 to $170, depending upon the size that you buy. So me and my husband aren't very big people, so we didn't have to buy the bigger one. At the time, I didn't really know how it would work. And I can tell you, this was a couple years ago that I wrote this blog. And I can tell you now that these sleeping pads are awesome. They keep you off the ground. They keep you comfortable as long as you clear away the pad beforehand, like underneath your tent, so there's no big rocks and stuff sticking up. They lay right down. None of mine have punctured as of yet. They are easy to blow up. They keep the air really thick. And even when I go over to like a friend's house, if I'm not sure if there's going to be a bed or something like that, I'll just bring my sleeping bag and I just roll the air mattress right into my sleeping bag. So it's really, really slick the way that it works. And I've been really happy with that. So that's the Neo Air sleeping pad. And I'm sure they've upgraded and made it better since then. But I really, really, really enjoy sleeping on that pad. So that's my story. I hope that if you guys, getting out into nature is a really important thing. And so anything that's stopping you from getting out into nature and enjoying your time out there, you need to address that issue. So if it's the fact that you don't have a countertop to do, your cooking, then address that issue. It's the fact that you don't have a nice stove, then address that issue. If it's the fact that you don't like sleeping on the ground in the cold, then address that issue. So that's all I got to tell you. Let's see. We heard The Walls of Freedom, chapter 13. The story is getting rolling now. We're going to get Daniel back on his feet, hopefully. And we heard from Dale and Lisa about coping with ill loved ones and how we can begin to even fathom to do that in a survival situation, which would be just astronomically even worse. And I'm sure that that's going to be a common theme if you were in that situation. So it's something we should think about, be a little bit prepared for now. And then we talked about sleeping outdoors and the different options there are for that. So thank you all for joining me on my very first video and audio broadcast of the Changing Earth podcast. I hope you have a great day. And remember, until next time, dream, survive, thrive.
Thank you for joining Sarah for this episode of the Changing Earth podcast. Don't forget to pick up your copy of Day After Disaster, Without Land, and The Walls of Freedom at www.author.sarahfhathaway.com. If you love this podcast, please head on over to iTunes or Amazon.com and let everyone know by leaving a review.